Thank you very much. Yes, this will be in English. Next time I will try to make some improvement in Russian, but today I prefer to share a few thoughts with you in English. I think everything has been said as an introduction. I just would like to add that for us, urban research and research about urban development should not only be connected with culture, but also with a broad approach of the environment. And that is why you see Trans-Siberian Scientific Way, TSSW also here, and Ludmila Barilo, Executive Director, is here, because we do believe there needs to be much more interaction between philosophy, concepts and projects in urban development and the broad approach of the environment that is behind what TSSW researchers at the space of Siberia, which is wider than the space of a city. But in fact, today, as you can see here, the boundaries between what is urban, what is not urban, what is natural, are being confused, blurred. Maybe I've got bad news to start with. Towards the Anthropocene, in fact, according to many researchers, we are now in this Anthropocene period. Although this is being discussed, is it a real new geological period, or is this just a name for rapid changes in urbanization, economy, society, and technology on the global stage? As for Education 5.0, it does not refer to any real existing concept, except that there is a tendency now to think about our life as a computer, as a software, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, etc. And last year in Kyoto, Japan, the Prime Minister of Japan introduced the concept of Society 5.0, meaning complete integration of societal issues and technology issues. So I thought, why not try to also think about education in that way? But I believe not everything should be compared to a computer, except especially urban development. So we will try to go a little bit into these connections of issues linked with space, culture, knowledge, not forgetting about progress, including social progress, Siberia, of course, and this digital age we are all taking part of. So let's start our journey here. We should go straight. Yeah. Just a few words about me. I established a strategic advisory company 10 years ago, devoted to the analysis, the understanding and projects in, let's so-called complex urban ecosystems. We realized a number of missions in France, of course, but also worldwide, from Vancouver, which you can see here on the photo, to Vladivostok, including Tomsk, and work a lot about smart cities. I will talk about that later. I am also the president of a think tank in Paris. You can see here the Grand Paris Alliance for Metropolitan Development. It's a not-for-profit organization. It connects universities, cities, business partners, research partners, community groups, civil organizations, charities and philanthropies. So this is another part of my action, but it's, I think, very important because it's also how society and the economy is made, and we have issued, since it was created 6 years ago, about 100 papers, reports, and etc., involving 200 experts on issues about large-scale metropolitan development. And here we are talking in the context of the Center for Urban Studies and Regional Development, which was established in 2013 and has already done a number of research projects, thoughts, connections, international cooperations, as was mentioned by the rector, so as to envision campus development here in Tomsk with Tomsk University in a renovated and regenerated way. And now we are opening a new phase of development today together with this center, which is really meant to be a place for discussion and also for controversy, but also for support of TSU and projects. So I was saying that our urban context is changing quickly. In the recent months, we have witnessed the publication of a number of very new visions of our cities, our urban environment. For example, this photo is Paris. You might not recognize Paris because it's this tiny city in the middle. In fact, it's Paris agglomeration. It might be the size of Moscow about. But it has been shot, it's not a computer illustration, it has been shot by our astronaut, Thomas Pesquet, who is now 400 kilometers in the International Space Station ahead of us, in last November when there was no cloud over the city. So this is now the kind of vision of what a city is. It's a real complex series of nexus, etc., where it might be difficult to assess exactly what the city is about. What is extraordinary about this kind of photo? It's not digital. It's human eye seeing cities from 400 kilometers above. I've already shown this illustration in last year University Cities Conference, but about this reset of the vision of cities, the issue of the North versus the South or the global South is completely changing. And here you've got like the conflicting visions of what if London was growing at the same speed of a major African agglomeration like Lagos? What if Paris was growing, including the number of cars on the streets at the speed of Mumbai? This is creating a completely new urban environment. It's no longer about traditional cooperation, traditional skills or technology transfers. Again, the lines are blurred and things are even collapsing the one with the other, creating new space for imagination also. What do we know, what do we see is something that is now on the table for all issues dealing with urban development. And you can see, we show the photo from Thomas Pesquet in the space station. This is a computer-made illustration where you can see the extreme density of urban impact and also of exchanges. You can see the boat routes. What is new also in this kind of representations, which did not exist even when we started the discussion even 5 years ago, is that there is a sense that the world becomes smaller. Or not smaller, but everything seems to be a little bit closer. Not because space or kilometers have been reduced, but because connections have been seriously enhanced, not only digital connections, but physical connections between people who live in cities, between cities, and I'm not sure if Tomsk is exactly here where I put it. I tried to figure out, looking at different maps, that it might be here. It's not completely unreasonable, but you can see on the same page, Paris, Moscow, Tomsk, and of course, India, and even a little bit of China, Egypt, and the Nile River, etc. So there is a sense that what we have learned at school in books, that Egypt is there, it's an ancient civilization, India, etc., still is here, right? But the future, and the future comes quickly, will definitely not be what we used to learn. And right now, I think we are all fascinated by this new trend. The question is, when it deals with education, is that what can we teach about that? what can we learn about that? And what kind of knowledge can we build out of that? You all know about sustainability issues, climate change issues, and the fact that every year by June or by September, there are a number of global non-governmental organizations who issue press releases saying, okay, this year, at half the year, we have consumed all the resource our planet is producing in a year, right? The rest of the year, we are living in credit. So we would need 2 more planets as here, 3 more planets, even 4 more planets if everybody now on Earth was living according to typical North American standards, for example. Only that it is not possible. Of course not. But I would say that given the trend of enhanced connectivity and reducing of scales in some way, acceleration of time, this might be not the most pressure issue any longer, and there are new items coming on the agenda. And in fact, this agenda is the agenda of the Anthropocene. There has been, for those who know a little bit about those debates, a lot of controversies about this topic, some which really has emerged name in the year 2000 by the former Nobel Prize Paul Crutzen. Then in 2009 was created the working group on the Anthropocene, which you can see here, WGA. And in fact, what I told in the beginning, in 2016, it met in Oslo so as to vote whether we had entered or not in the Anthropocene. 30 people said yes, 3 voted against, 2 did not take part to the vote. So according to this working group, which depends on the International Commission on Stratigraphy, which depends on the International Geological Union, we are in that period. The debate is not closed about whether it's a name of considerable changes or whether it's a real geological period. Other definitions have been made. We started in the Holocene period to 11,000 years ago in 1610. After millions of people died in South America after Spanish colonization, so many people died that human activity stopped and carbon was captured by plants, and you can see that in ice periods in the North Pole or in the Antarctic. So there were attempts to say this might be the beginning of the Anthropocene or the Industrial Revolution. But let's say that it's an interesting concept to live with, at least now, considering that definitely, collectively, we do have a considerable impact on Earth, in space, and deep down on Earth and also in the oceans. And why those chicken here? Because a number of researchers say that this might be the example of what should be defining Anthropocene in future millenniums, because there are billions, about 60 billion of chicken are being eaten each year, which is a growth which is unprecedented. And when people will research about alimentation in 3,000 years from now, they will find a number of skeletons and bones of chicken at an unprecedented level, showing that definitely these people were having very specific eating habits all over the world, eating chicken, as during the Roman time they were eating snails, for example. So welcome to the Anthropocene. But that's the easiest part. We don't really know what to do with that. So there is considerable number of definitions by researchers and by politicians and by business leaders. Here we have a politician, the Prime Minister of Japan. When you read it, it's like the world explained to children. It's one vision, free of charge. And there is impossible to discuss really, but society 1.0, agrarian society 2.0, why not? But the interesting thing here is that even society tends to be described as a series of software digital connections, computer, which is interesting, but which might be also wrong at the end of the day, because it cannot all be about that. The other interesting thing is adding together technology, sensors, robotics, communication, big data, cloud computing, in a happy technology approach, but this needs to be taken into consideration. By the way, this is certainly not the definition I would give about education for 5.0. In that context, what does it mean progress? It seems we are just jumping from point 0 to point 1 to point 2 as in a computer world version or a telephone, smartphone, iOS or Samsung version. It's difficult to say. It seems city belongs to the past and metropolis, as shown in the beginning, belongs to space and connections, with people just a little bit behind that and also behind technology. People being merged into a mix of concepts and virtual reality, where more critical issues would be artificial intelligence, drones, Internet of Things, 5G, cloud computing, etc. Where is progress in that concept? And even more, how can we build some consensus about the future? And how can we build inclusion also about the future? These are some very important questions that cannot be solved by technology only. And in fact, if we look back in our past, the issue of space and how space was being summed up by plans and how those plans help people move from one coast to another in rivers, and what it revealed from the knowledge of that time is not something new, right? This is also why all representations about our planet, our system of cities, etc., must be considered somehow as the contemporary versions of those charts from the late 15th century. Huh? So it is about knowledge, only that we are not sure exactly about what knowledge we are talking about. Of course, the issue of space and knowledge, the space of Russia as a whole, of Siberia in the 18th century, which was a time of very profound social transformations with the French Revolution, with the American Revolution, with a profound transformation in techniques with the encyclopedia, profound transformation in technological and cultural and intellectual exchanges, especially between, let's say, the west of Europe and Russia, with Catherine the Great, starting with Peter the Great, but Catherine too, and then with the Great Northern Expeditions as far as Kamchatka, where you can see here famous illustrations. So space does matter in building knowledge. There is a deep meaning of connecting new knowledge, formation of space, understanding of space, representation of space, and evolution of culture. So we should think about it in terms of heavy technology, because it cannot be only about technology, as here with typical representations of smart cities, where everything, main sectors of city life or urban life are being standardized: education, health, government, building, mobility, energy, environment, infrastructures. Since 10 years, you can see these kinds of diagrams all over the place. This one is very new. It has been done by a German high-level consultancy this year, 2017, and it highlights not only concepts, but also how somehow urban development is being carried out right now. Again, we are changing. We are completely, we need to revise the way we think, we understand about daily environment. You can see here, this is a real photo. It's not montage, it's a real photo. Shot from the International Space Station. You can see the Russian flag. And it shows part of Europe: Paris, London, the Randstad, Amsterdam, Belgium in the middle, the Ruhr. That is some of the most economic developed regions, on the planet right now. And when I saw this photo, I thought, it is a great photo, but I could not really understand why. But you look at the distances. It's practically a square, from Paris to London, London to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Germany, the whole region, and then to Paris, and then up in the sky, practically the same distances. So this is why we can talk about a 4D, not 3D, three-dimensional, but somehow four-dimensional world. Of course, nobody lives in space, but I would say the current changes on our planet in urban development are so strong, so rapid, and so profound that it pushes the boundaries of not only knowledge, not only technology, but also somehow about imagination. And you can see here, it is about all of that all together. But space really is not independent for culture. It's not just a matter of figures and kilometers. You can see here pictures from the Renaissance and pictures from the, I'm not sure exactly, I couldn't find the exact date where this Russian painting was painted, but let's say in the late 70s or early 80s, correct me if I am wrong. They definitely belong to the same cultural era, right? What's interesting here, it's about people, of course. It's about age. It's about generations. It's about religion somehow, but not mainly. It's about something linked with human activities. And what was a characteristic of Renaissance paintings and what was reused in the painting in here is this. You can see on the foreground the people, individual, right? The rise of the individual. What you can see always in the background is real urban life, scenes of urban activities. And somehow this is very typical of European legacy and European culture. On both ways, the relationship between building the individual, building the sense of belonging to the community, and understanding that we are part of some other kind of activities that are, in fact, when you look in very much in detail, well, the picture you can see from the Renaissance is that size. It's not a big one. So when you look closely, you can see real city life. And the same with the painting on the right side. You can see the plot of lands, the traditional, I would say, land organization, and even some agriculture in a typical Russian village. So that's all together. And in the Renaissance painting, you will also see the boats. Remember about the maps which I have shown. So this is our culture, this is our legacy. And the question is, with our 4D metropolitan systems, etc., is really where we are going and what kind of culture, what kind of vision, what kind of society are we contributing to build? Apparently, a completely different one. This is the world as seen by a Google car. Absolutely not the same. It's just a matter of sensors, radars, and technology. It comes from a blog by Daniel Braunstein. It's a very, very long article about the world as being seen through sensors. But it's extremely interesting because those illustrations, they show advanced technology, but most of the time, and computer modeling for cars and GPS, etc., never show people. They will show data, flows, etc., but people tend to disappear from the culture. So we are dealing with these, and nobody can escape the theme of autonomous vehicle or future vehicle when it deals with cities and urban development. And it is, in fact, interesting. It is a matter of technology and investments. But on the other hand, there is an issue of how it connects with humankind, which is very problematic. No, this map is very new, was issued last December 2016 by a research group from a very small university in Germany. They made incredible work using open street data and a lot of connected data. Maybe it's one of the most advanced work today, showing the density of roads worldwide. I've tried to figure out where Tomsk would be on such a map. I think I might be right. I'm not too wrong, I would say. And here we are. It's very interesting. We mentioned TSSW, we mentioned Siberian space, we mentioned the Great Northern Expeditions. We are at the junction somehow here, literally, physically, geographically speaking, between this changing world of urban development, cities rapidly, etc., and one of the now rare part of the planet, which is still not completely void of human activities, but largely void of streets. This is all the more interesting that the situation is not stable. It is changing over time. By the next 3 to 4 decades, the total length of roads on our planet should be multiplied by 1.5, right? So this map will not be accurate any longer. The question is also, and it will be shown in the next one, about the environment, because in fact the measure that has been done shows that just 7% of the places on the planet where there are no roads are patches larger than 100 square kilometers. This must lead us to consider what kind of ecosystems, natural large-scale ecosystems, will remain after 1, 2, 3, 4 more decades of urban growth. So it's not just about preserving the nature or saying there are not too many streets here or not too many activities, because infrastructures, roads are easy infrastructures, do scatter the world in pieces, in puzzles. I would say the same way they do divide our planet, the same way this tends to divide our brain or our mind, where it tends to be sometimes very challenging and very difficult to have this sort of broad approach, encyclopedian style approach, universalist approach to knowledge, society, etc., which happened to take place in the former centuries. This is challenging, this is very interesting, and this will lead to a couple of questions, of course, about education and about the kind of knowledge, fragmented knowledge as through computer organization, of broad connected knowledge. Of course, I don't have the solution. When we think about the future, in previous decades, we thought about science fiction. We will have spaceships, it will be likewise, etc. Science fiction, okay. The reality of urban systems is changing. This is in Paris, the business districts in the east of Paris, La Défense. You can see the Eiffel Tower in the smoke in the back. But a photo from Tokyo, Shinjuku area would not be that different. A photo from Moscow business district would not be exactly the same, but would not look that different, right? This is what we have in mind now as part of our global urban imagination. So it's not science fiction, it's changing reality, and we are in. It's also about pure fiction, not just science fiction. This illustration was drawn during the times of the international competition about Greater Moscow, and displayed in a magazine in Aeroflot, along with other projects about the future of Moscow. So, and it was about 5, 6, 7 years ago. So again, we see this tendency to sort of mix reality and fiction in some ways, in a three-dimensional way. And now we have entered in even new world of what I would call real fiction. It seems nothing is impossible, and that technology, layers and layers and layers of new technology and fierce competition about those technology can bring asteroids down to Earth, or if not that, can help build buildings that would be suspended to asteroids and go as far as the space station right now. This is an American architecture agency which has issued these pure drawings, real fiction, just a couple of weeks ago as part of sort of internal competition. But when we see that, we say, wow, is it real or what is it? We are not even completely surprised that people might be designing that. The question is, in between, on the ground, in our environment, what is happening and how are we building that future? And in fact, getting to the issue of changing space and changing knowledge and knowledge building, and then of course about education. Let's talk 1 minute about this issue of smart cities. Fortunately, in recent years, 2014, 15, last year, the beginning of this year, a number of very interesting articles have analyzed smart city literature. It has not been done before. And we can see that through those visual illustrations of data issued from the analysis of about 1,000 articles since the mid-90s, smart cities started as just a number of issues, and now it's on the right side, a great number of different issues altogether. These kind of diagrams are now very popular, brain-like diagrams where you connect the dots, etc., in different fields or spheres. You don't know exactly what you are talking about, but it directly illustrates somehow in a symbolic manner that our brains are changing along with our society. More precisely, about smart cities or smart and digital cities, those two charts from 2014 are interesting because they show that up until very recently, 2010, 2011, the number of articles, serious articles, not just publicity about smart cities, have been in fact very limited. Not more than a couple per years. And it all started to change about 5 years ago, 2011, 2012, 2013. You can see the diagram are changing quickly. Interesting also is that in previous 10 years, it was more about digital city. Now the theme of smart city has, as you can see on the right side, has evolved and is completely dominating. So we can say we are in an era of smart cities, and I would propose to you that as a discussion matter, that this might be the response or a form of response to this Anthropocene concept or such a rapidly changing environment. We want to be able to find solutions to our changing environment. And if it starts with the technology, let it start with the technology, but we want to find some solutions. And in fact, in the same time as smart city research has evolved and changed, you can also see here in decades since the beginning of 2002, every 2 years there are World Urban Forum where urban issues are being discussed. It started with just a little bit more than 1,000 people in Nairobi in the beginning, and now it's attended by over 20 or 30,000 people every time. This illustrates also a need of people not only to meet, but also to really meet others and understand and discuss. The risk is that everybody talks about the same things, discuss about the same things, and go in the wrong directions altogether. The good thing is, I think sometimes things need to be discussed. And next World Urban Forum should be taking place in Malaysia in next year, and the next one is decided also in 2020. So it's a time frame of about 20 years. So in some way, things are changing very quickly, but not that quickly. Things are changing over a generation. The question we need to understand and to address, especially when it deals with education and knowledge, is what kind of generation are we training for the future? when we will retire in 25, 30 years, who will be the new leaders? Who will be the new students? And what kind of students are we training today, in fact? There is a broad, I would say, a broad backbone of issues that has been framed by the United Nations as Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. But it is super broad, right? It's hard not to be inside. On the other hand, each of those squares that have been approved by all of the United Nations represent dozens of networks, discussion places, etc., including partner issues, including cities, including education. So let's say it will be there for some years and for some decades ahead of us. But this would be more interesting. Trying to connect on one page those different elements from rural to urban to metropolitan, and then to what? To what next? And understanding also 1.0, this time not through the description of the Japanese Prime Minister, but as 1.0, the development of Internet, plainly, during the 80s and the 90s, 2.0, social networks, 3.0, Internet of Things and connected objects, 4.0, definition given by Germany to say we are developing the industry of the future, and 5.0 as being defined by the Japanese Prime Minister. So this is changing. What we can see is we are in an era where urban growth is going quickly, you can see, over 50%, with social networks and with smart city issues and changing agglomerations. So somehow all those different flows are going not all together in a connected way. The question is, after moving from rural to urban world and then metropolitan environment, where are we going? Will be four-dimensional, hyper-dimensional, completely fragmented? The question we need to address are starting now, understanding the different kind of movements that are taking place. You can see the birth of Skolkovo, you can see the creation of our center, the creation of TSSW, are some initiatives that are also meant to respond one way or another to such transformations and changes. There is a real hunger, I've seen that also in November, shown that, sorry. There is a hunger to live in cities in a peaceful way or in a more comfortable way, to understand what urban life will be in the future. And definitely it cannot only be about technology, but the real question I want to address now in finishing this presentation is how education is responding, right? Do we refer to the traditional class of our ideal ancestors? How education is responding? How universities also are responding to these profound changes. Governments cannot do it alone. Businesses cannot do it alone. Universities and researchers together, and this was conclusions from a summit about universities and cities in Chicago held in 2015, is that universities and researchers all together have a chance. Well, they are not completely freed, I would say, from institutional constraints, but they have some resources, they have some time, they have some space to build hypotheses, to test them, and not only to run after the next layer of technology. So they are very, very, very important centers for the future. Not just technology, but universities in the plain sense of it, connecting the different fields of knowledge which themselves are changing. And this is all the more important and crucial as, for example, this is from Altai Mountains. We need to be sure that to understand how our ecosystems might evolve and how places with low technology might also be part of our environment, not just void places to conquer. And Russian universities, Tomsk State universities, certainly because they are at the junction of different space, at the junction of different culture and time, can play a significant role in understanding how we can build a smarter urban future. It's also about creating opportunities to change together, to learn in different ways, represent things in different ways, with different specialities altogether. This is nothing new, this is happening, but it needs to be organized, or here in Tomsk with the Tomsk Urban Lab and TSAB, which is really producing, I would say, not new knowledge, but new ways to do some co-working. It's never easy, but it's a good way to move forward, and you can see it produces also representations and way to collaborate, which are very precious. It starts with that. But we are also in times of prototyping. This photo was shot in the City Hall of Paris in March this year. It was a hackathon about smart solutions for the Olympics. We are in Paris a candidate for 2024 Olympics. I am not sure anything serious came out of this meeting, but it looks impressive. The same way on this map of Paris, you can see in the east of Paris all the co-working spaces and innovation places and incubators of startups that are now really part of the urban life. So this is happening, and it shows that many different kinds of people are trying many different kinds of solutions, and that governments also are trying to host them. So in this era of prototyping, Amsterdam is known for being a good example of smart city. Recently, they created this concept of knowledge mile. Well, I was jealous because we created University Mile in Tomsk already 4 years ago. So it's also about branding and communication, not just good concepts. You can see it's about building coalitions, it's about building concrete projects, mobilizing students, and mobilizing also citizens. In some cities it's easier to do than in others. But this knowledge mile is interesting because it connects physical space with knowledge and with also ability to interact with people. This could easily be done in Tomsk. Era of prototyping is also about living labs and tests as defined by this Chicago conference here on the campus of Delft. It's about getting traditional knowledge boundaries and reformulating solutions for large metropolitan systems in such ways that environment, climate, population, globalization, science and technology issues. So not traditional academic disciplines, but fields of understanding and fields of knowledge can be researched and connected all together. It's about connectivity of issues, connectivity of places, but also connectivity of places through specific issues. Here was a research by Elsevier about Amsterdam being a cluster for medical research, for example. And they did not just study the number of papers about medical research or biological research issued by Amsterdam research centers and universities. They researched about how the companies also based in Amsterdam were connected for patents, for working teams, for research teams with others. And they could then understand how they were positioned according to other cities. The other map is also done by Elsevier about cooperation between Illinois Institute of Technology and others in the field of nanotechnology. Sorry, I jumped to this illustration about in this era of connectivity, different kind of sources of inspiration. You remember these spectacular maps about the evolution of road systems? They have not been done by MIT or by Harvard. They have been done by this university. Who knows University for Sustainable Development, Eberswald? Well, before I looked at this map, I didn't know Eberswald was ever existing. It's a 140,000 inhabitant city in the forest in the north of Germany, close to the Polish border. It's a very small city, established in the Middle Age, except that this university in Eberwald was created as a forestry research center about 180 years ago. It has remained a small university, but now with the technology and with some intelligence, they can produce the most advanced research about transformations of road systems worldwide. So it's not about being large or small to be clever in this world. I must add that, in fact, when you look closely at the map, we are just 20 kilometers out of Berlin. So again, Eberswald is not a lost location. It is connected. So it would be about how large metropolitan areas are helping produce agile intelligence and new concepts, not only in the universities in the large metropolis, but outside of it, because there is less urban pressure and there is maybe more space and more freedom to think freely about the future. Another illustration here with not a university, but a research center, European Research Center, private in city of Bolzano in Italy, a little bit larger, but not very big, 100,000 inhabitants. And when you look at the main fields of research, it rings a bell with Tomsk, I think. Solar and building technology, biomedicine, ancient DNA, satellite receive stations. So it also means that there are opportunities to connect between universities and centers, not only always the big names that everybody knows because they are ahead of rankings according to the number of scientific publications, but by places you need to find out yourself, which can be public, which can be private, which can be universities, which can be education center, and that all together connected can help also produce knowledge responding to the emerging century. But then, of course, it also deals with new technological facilities. Here in the Paris region, Sense City is a new lab that will open in the end of this year, when you can recreate complete climate and urban environment, including pollution, all under one roof. And in Saclay, in the very big, it's a house called Covo in Paris, in the southeast of Paris, very big research labs. So this is also part of globalization of research, and it's not about opposing those types of places for education and research, but about understanding how we can build some complementarities between them, but also taking a little bit of time to breathe and think that, of course, strong things are happening, but there are alternative solutions. Not everything needs to be done according to big city, big technology system. It should be also about building a more comprehensive and systemic approach of knowledge formation, including youth, sustainability, life sciences, institutions for open societies. And you can see here, this is basically the diagram for the 2020 strategy of the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, which as TSU has a number of Nobel Prizes working with them. And you can see future knowledge will definitely not be the same as the one from our idealized ancestors with geography, humanity, history, etc. But we will need them more than ever to build a more sustainable future. To finish with a few words about Tomsk and real assets that we do have in Tomsk to make this connection between history, between the village marketplace as a place to gather as this afternoon and to play with this idea of interconnected issues. Also to think about the future of the university. This is not a project, it's a concept. But it's a way to think about the future and to think about the evolution of the campus, and also to integrate research labs and stations where, depending on TSU, which are completely out of the city and the campus, even thousands of kilometers away, and using the campus, the university, the physical place and the intellectual place as a hub to breathe and disseminate, to bring knowledge and disseminate it, to build it and to rebuild it, and to take part, of course, to networks by building the future according to what is already there. I mentioned this concept of knowledge mile in Amsterdam. In 2013, we issued this concept of university mile with the different campuses here in Tomsk. We could do it, so let's move with such concepts. And we issued this manifest last November, showing that we can really research about connectivity between skills, between technology, between education, all together. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about technology, we can try to understand technology, we can do new technology, but we need to find ways also to train kids, students, us professionals about this urban future. So initial education and continuous education, so as to really build smart cities and look at smart cities as something from the outside. And I think with this approach of time, space, traveling, considering this common ground of the Anthropocene, I just want to insist, I think, with things are important here, and I do share also, as was said by the rector, about the philosophy of our research center and also about collaboration. It's building the future with roots and traditions, not just resisting to the future with traditions, but using those traditions in a proactive way. And this is nothing new in the Russian context. Just go into museums and show these kind of illustrations. And building the future with roots and traditions is really sometimes also play at odds with some famous cultural signs and values, as this wonderful painting from the late 19th century, when you can see the Cossack really writing a letter to the Sultan and finding the best insults after he issued a decree that they should be submitted to his will. And I think somehow building the future is also about, sometimes sitting all together and say, okay, let's not just follow the intellectual mainstream, but sit around with our habits, traditions, each of us, and try to find a way in a different manner, in a clever way, in a solid way. Well, in other words, all together. Thank you very much for listening to me this afternoon.
Спасибо, Николя, за столь интересное сообщение. Мы приступаем к дискуссии. Уважаемые коллеги, у вас есть возможность задать вопросы, пожалуйста, или высказаться.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Nijana. I represent here the Department of Social Communication, and I have this question. There's another approach to counting the societies and maybe the types of education. For example, some researchers believe that now we live in society 3.0, but we still deal with education 2.0, which is industrial type of education, and they discuss this possibility of merging the education 3.0, which is based on self-education, which is based on continuous lifelong education, purposive use of technologies, and some other aspects. So could you please talk a little bit more about this education 5.0? What is that? Because I cannot see how we could leapfrog from where we are now to education 5.0. And also it's very interesting how universities what universities could do, how to build the environment to make it possible for us to get there.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. There is no such thing really as education 5.0. It would be more a question about what kind of education would fit to a time where governments are talking about society 5.0 made out of complete integration of urban life and people and technologies. That's one first answer. The other is, I agree with you, we would be closer if we want to count somewhere between education 2.0 and 3.0, right? But I know you're researching on those topics here in terms can such initiatives as Connect Universum, for example, are definitely helping help enter in the digital age about education. If we forget about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.0, I would say that right now very profound transformations occur in higher education systems worldwide in different manners. I have just tried to illustrate it a little bit with some education strategies. It would be a mix of some prototyping, labs, living labs, etc., which needs really to be supported and which are places where people need to understand for real what we are talking about and test it. It would be also about encouraging systemic approaches. I don't believe we should forget disciplines, because disciplines is a way to think, is a way to build your personality and to build a curriculum. But of course, new disciplines arrive, more pressing needs to build interdisciplinary connections also happen. That's one other element. Another element is about the themes of universities and cities altogether, and knowledge building hubs and places in cities. There is a need to review how campus can play a role in city and urban development, not in the classical way, but by nurturing cities as examples with Knowledge Mile or University Mile. All those are things which are very new, rather recent, and which can be sort of incorporated maybe here in Tomsk, I would say. But there might be other comments from my neighbors on this topic.
Пожалуйста, коллеги, кто еще хочет выступить?
Позвольте мне задать вопрос. Господин Николя, вы фактически поставили проблему перед нами, как мы видим адаптацию. Я своими словами пытаюсь отобразить, как я понял означенную проблему, как мы видим механизм соотнесения нашего мышления, культивируемого в образовании, с тем процессом урбанизации, тем таким быстро меняющимся миром. Вот. Поэтому фактически я хотел задать вам вопрос такого рода. Видите ли вы какой-либо механизм, и как вы видите? Фактически здесь можно видеть два способа адаптации к изменяющемуся миру. Можно идти, приспосабливаясь, я говорю сейчас о мышлении в образовании, то, как мы даем новые знания будущему поколению. Можно идти, приспосабливаясь к тому изменяющемуся миру, какой мы видим. Но при этом мы осознаем, что этот мир мы запустили, такой процесс его изменения запущен нашими прежними представлениями. А второй путь напрашивается в том, чтобы вернуться назад глубоко и пересмотреть, как зарождалась культура образования, культура передачи знаний, культура воспитания сменяющего поколения, и найти там какие-то может быть, ошибочные выборы наших прежних, в общем, в истории развития образования. Вот фактически я ситуацию понимаю так. Выбор вот между двумя этими векторами. Как вы на это смотрите? Спасибо.
Thank you very much for raising such a deep question. I have tried to show some historical context and some historical elements, and trying to show that we are in a daily future, that a daily work, it changes all the time, but on the other hand, it takes about a generation to build more solid and profound changes. In my view, there has not been enough serious historical analysis of current technological changes, for example. We are all talking about 5.0, smartphones, interconnected, whatever. On the other hand, who knows really how those technologies were established? I didn't talk about financing of all this, but finance also comes with some elements of knowledge, industry, and etc., etc., etc. For example, if we take the subject of smart cities, we are talking about always in the future it will be that, or it should be connected in this systemic approach. But in fact, in Western Europe or in France, there is very, very little serious research literature about how do we connect that with history of technology, history of techniques. For example, I mean, what emerged after the great changes, after the great discoveries of the late 15th century, after the Renaissance, in the Enlightenment period. So I would try to answer to your question by saying the more we are in this interconnected environment where everything takes time at the same present, which is not true, the more we are building this four-dimensional world where we now connect with the space, even if it is with our imagination, the more we need to be able to rely on serious historical analysis of knowledge structures, of technological structures, of these structural changes. By training, initially, myself, I am an historian. This is why I am very sensitive to this issue of time frame, and chronology. And I was trained with this school of short-term and long-term vision of history. I've been trained in archaeology and in Chinese history, so I see those things. And when I say we need social and strong societal approach to knowledge building, it is because I think we need places like universities where we can play with these issues of the future, but by understanding a little bit more precisely what has changed, or if anything has changed, and how it has changed in the last 10, 15, or 30 years. In that matter, I would say there is a very specific knowledge environment in Russia, given the special history of Russia throughout the course of the 20th century. And now, in a global environment, the legacy and the physical, intellectual, cultural space that has been formed is completely unique. So it has something else to bring to, I would say, the global community of knowledge that is not being done so far by other large-scale research centers, hubs of knowledge, etc. And this is a very big challenge, but it can also be a chance. But it will not be met, this challenge, without deeper connection between education, knowledge, with history, and technology, I would say.
Да, здравствуйте, можно вопрос? Меня зовут Дмитрий, проект «Карта мероприятий Тетрус». Хотел спросить, вот, получается, то есть антропоцея, мы входим в период антропоцеи, и насколько, ну, то есть мы все чаще и чаще говорим про смарт-сити, про умные города, биг-дейта, нейросети, насколько, получается, критически важным становится именно уровень прозрачности городов, потому что, допустим, в смарт-сити, то есть города увеличиваются вот именно внутригородские связи, и это все определенные возможности, которые окружают именно, то есть самих горожан. Насколько критически становится важным, то есть доносить, ну, то есть знать вообще, в каком месте тебе стоит оказаться в нужном месте, в нужное время.
Thank you. The issue of transparency goes, I would say, with other issues about political communication, about organization of governance and democracy or open society. It's a series of connected fields. I would take the example of Paris. Okay, Paris right now. Paris is democratic city with rather transparent decision-making processes. Communities can take part in decision-making. It's not always easy, well, blah, blah. Somehow. Still, there is a problem because in a way, major businesses, the city hall, lobbies that work with the city hall, IT companies, big investors, they tend to deliver the same messages every day in the same way through social networks, through journals you can read in the metro, through radio, medias, etc. So it is transparent, no problem. But the more it goes, the less there is room for critique. The problem is, in such context, we are supposed not to raise too much critics because we are in a competitive environment. Okay, so because we are in a competitive environment, we need to stick together because there is Brexit, there is London, there is the US, whatsoever, BRICS countries, China is growing fast, etc. So let's go in this direction. In a way, that's good. It energizes things. The problem is, when can we have real controversies? The problem is, it brings, sometimes groups are resisting just for the sake of, I don't know if I agree with or not, but I will be against because it makes me exist. Not because they have different mind or a different approach or something solid to defend, but it made me exist to resist to this transparency and mainstream. So it's more about mainstream and distinctive individuals. In a way, that's good. The problem is, if this also happens in research locations in universities, then we don't have any more spaces to build the controversies, to say this could be a theory, but there could be another theory, how they do confront. It is like mass media are displaying every day the same kind of messages, and for example, if this tycoon of technology says the future will be about connected cars, the day after, in Facebook, social networks, on TV, newspapers, the same kind of illustrations, and it will be about the future will be about cars this way. How can your brain survive in this environment? Huh? This is why this is happening. This is real life. We are not living in abstract life. But on the other hand, we need also places to step back a little bit and to think about that, to pause, to analyze. And this is, for me, can be only done in solid universities and research centers.
Добрый день. Я бы хотел вот здесь сделать небольшой комментарий. Козьмин Алексей, экс-директор Центра урбанистики ТГУ, сейчас просто научный сотрудник Центра урбанистики. Мы очень много раз обсуждали с Николя и с нашими коллегами то, о чем сегодня говорилось, и я бы хотел акцентировать обсуждение, вот важность этого обсуждения на некоторых особенных моментах. Ну, во-первых, терминология, которая используется 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, да, понятно, что это некоторая дань моде, но тем не менее мы так закладываем классификацию где-то историческую, где-то технологическую, определенных слоев общества, слоев города. И то, что мы видим, в частности, у нас в Томске и во многих других российских городах и за рубежом, то, что эти слои существуют одновременно. Появление нового слоя, появление общества 3.0, 4.0 не уничтожает предыдущее общество. Особенно сейчас, когда скорость изменений нарастает, но цикл жизни человека достаточно большой. В Томске вы можете найти город 1.0, он у нас здесь на виду везде. Город 2.0 индустриальный, город 3.0, город инноваций. И также и людей, которые привержены этим городам и которые живут в своем мире. И вопрос выстраивания коммуникации между этими людьми, вопрос построения будущего, вопрос ценностей друг друга, уважения этих ценностей, обсуждения, он очень важный, потому что иначе наше общество разрывается. Мы вроде бежим вперед за инновациями, но при этом многие понимают, что есть проблемы с традиционной промышленностью, с теми людьми, которые были там заняты и никогда уже не перестроятся и не смогут заниматься новой экономикой, а еще есть традиционалисты, и что делать с ними. И это проблема, на мой взгляд, которая должна обсуждаться в университете, поскольку университет хранит классическое знание, классические ценности и может, в то же время являясь инновационным образовательным учреждением, может занимать позицию, смотреть вперед и состыковывать эти разные слои, разные видения. И еще один аспект, второй, на котором я бы хотел акцентировать внимание, это, об этом говорил Николя, это скорость и нарастание скорость нарастания связей. Связи растут в геометрической прогрессии, комбинации растут в геометрической прогрессии. Если в средние века и даже в 20 веке, по сути, мир меняли те, кто учился в лучших университетах, были определенные школы, люди им принадлежали, и эти люди являлись элитой, которые меняли мир, меняли технологии, делали новые культурные прорывы, занимались государственным управлением. Сейчас, благодаря взрывному изменению технологий коммуникации, мы видим, что возникают абсолютно новые движения, абсолютно новые тренды, которые запускаются в социальных сетях, которые запускаются на YouTube. Люди самоорганизуются, люди создают новое без университетов, не опираясь на какие-то знания. Они меняют себя, они меняют людей вокруг себя, они меняют мир. И это уже не связано с университетами, это уже не связано с образованием вообще. Вопрос, который ставит Николя, как мне кажется, как университеты, которые всегда держали рамку, должны на это реагировать. Будут ли традиционные ценности и вообще какие-либо ценности важны через 5, через 10 лет, через 20 лет, когда мир еще более изменится под влиянием вот этих самостоятельных групп и нарастания количества независимых связей. Вот, мне кажется, эта проблема тоже должна обсуждаться в университете, в университетах. И это проблема философская, проблема не технологическая, она скорее такая вот образовательная и философская. Да, Эдуард Владимирович? Да, ну, собственно, и про образование, да, вот мы с Эдуардом Владимировичем немножко тут дискутировали про это. Какое образование, какие компетенции должны быть даны людям, обучающимся в университетах, студентам, бакалаврам, магистрантам, для того, чтобы не догонять постоянно вот этот технологический и культурный рост, эти изменения, потому что мы, как те генералы, готовим свои войска к прошлой войне. Она уже прошла, а мы только этому учим, а мы только это поняли. Как давать такое образование, чтобы оно позволяло не просто прогнозировать, что будет в обществе 5.0 или какие у нас будут технологии 5.0, а чтобы эти люди могли проектировать сообщество 6.0 и дальше, чтобы они могли предвидеть будущее и жить в этом будущем, а не идти в догоняющем режиме. Это тоже очень большая проблема, которую я вижу для университета. Спасибо.
Пожалуйста, коллеги, еще вопросы.
Hello, everybody. I'm the Anton, and I have two questions to our French guests. What do you think about power of future? And have we got new ways to people communication more than car roads, railways, or airspace? Maybe it become drones and other thing. That's all.
Sorry, I was just discussing. Could you repeat the beginning of your question?
Yes, I can. Have you got a new ways to people communication more than car roads, airspace, or railways? And the two question is what do you think about the future power?
Sorry. My approach would be that even if we don't do anything more with the different kind of communication means, infrastructures and devices that we already have as of today, we will be more and more connected because urban population is growing, right? And in the next generation, it will grow even faster as in the last 10 years. So we are not playing with a stable environment. Global population is growing and is expected to grow at the same speed between now and about 2050, 2060, according to global forecasts, even if in some countries like Japan it is aging. Which means that literally in the same room in 20 years from now, there should be double the people, right? So before, if there would be an announcement for a conference like this in 20 years from now, double the people with the same level of technology will hear it. In the meantime, it is expected that this kind of technology should continuously evolve. I don't know, but let's say it will. We are talking about not 4G but 5G in terms of connection and broadband data exchanges. So everything is here on the table so that the speed, and Alexei said it, there is a sort of not geometrical, by the way, exponential growth of our ability to connect to issues and the one with the others, which is linked with infrastructures, but which is also linked to us directly as human beings and how many human beings we will be in cities and worldwide. And this figure is growing. Frankly speaking, I am not sure we have any idea or any clear idea about how we will manage that. Already, I don't know you, but me, and in my daily life, half of my day I am looking at this device. I'm looking, do I have a Facebook something or WhatsApp everything? And sometimes, leave this. Because it doesn't have to concentrate, but then you use it again. And I don't know how I will personally be able to cope with the multiplied by a factor 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 more connections in the near future. And I don't know if this will bring me, at the end of the day, more knowledge, more freedom, or just make me more connected. This is why now it is popular to talk about connecting some chips to your neurons to be able to have some hyperbrain or superbrain that can incorporate such new levels of connections. But frankly speaking, we are building Frankensteins. We have no clue, no idea in terms of concept where it is going. And when you consider then about that, for example, medical research or brain research in a more serious way, and if you are not a specialist, it takes a little bit of time to get acquainted with the very basics. You can only see that while on the one way it seems easy to talk about those issues, on the other hand, it requires more and more and more research time to understand what we are talking about. So it's not just about expanding, it's also somehow about deepening of knowledge. In one way, this is excellent news, because this would mean we are in an era of considerable changes, but maybe also of unprecedented abilities and unprecedented knowledge. The real difficulty then is what we will do about that. Where do we talk about that? And where can we talk about how to manage those issues? This is very important.
So, Nicola, first of all, thank you very much for your brilliant and very interesting presentation. And I will continue to speak Russian because we have majority of Russian-speaking people here. И поскольку нам позволили не только вопросы задавать, но и высказывать некие суждения, а это будет одновременно и то, и другое, я вот о чем хотел бы предложить подумать и вам, и аудитории в целом. Дело в том, что вот да, мы выделяем антропоцен и предлагаем все эти концепции, но по большому счету мы находимся в рамках или в плену старой парадигмы, которая развивалась главным образом в социальных и гуманитарных науках и которая так или иначе всегда отделяла человека от природы, к сожалению. Но если мы посмотрим на это дело несколько иначе, более глубоко, с точки зрения так называемой глубокой экологии, это новое течение мысли и в западной, и в отечественной литературе, которая себя очень хорошо проявила, то в этом случае, когда человек, скажем так, не отделяется от природы, окружающая среда, урбанистическая среда – это тоже часть этой окружающей среды, и на самом деле вопрос стоит в том, эволюционирует ли человек. Я считаю, что, несомненно, он эволюционирует. Непонятны, правда, механизмы этой эволюции, они не вскрыты, они не описаны. Но об этом говорили многие мыслители, и вот хотелось вас спросить. Я думаю, несомненно, вы знакомы с творчеством нашего великого соотечественника Владимира Ивановича Вернадского. А до этого термин «ноосфера», сфера разума, предложил французский мыслитель Теяр де Шарден. Если мы на все на это посмотрим как на эволюционный процесс, который нам пока недостаточно понятен, и механизмы его не вскрыты, то, может быть, вместо этих достаточно искусственных укладов или состояний общества, которые мы обозначили определенными цифрами, они очень выразительны, они очень показательны, они замечательны. Но они, по большому счету, мало что объясняют. Мы просто каким-то образом пытаемся отразить ситуацию. Вот идет какая-то смена, да, эпох, укладов развития человечества. И и не понимаем, чем это вызвано, чем это обусловлено. Я предлагаю посмотреть на все на это с более глубокой точки зрения и попытаться вот какими-то общими усилиями, а в этом и состоит вся прелесть междисциплинарности, попытаться вскрыть, объяснить механизмы этих процессов. И кто первый этот сделает, тот будет, прямо скажем, на высоте. Это первая мысль. Второе, мне очень импонирует, конечно, идея умной мили, и здорово, что мы здесь оказались впереди планеты всей, и потом только Амстердам то же самое предложил. Но ведь страшным образом мне понравилась картинка, которую вы показали по поводу дорог из небольшого немецкого университета. Но такое впечатление создается, что два места на планете огромных, которые пустые, как с точки зрения дорог, городов и всего остального. А ведь эти места, фактически земель-то таких на земном шаре немного бывает. Вот наши коллеги из небольших европейских стран назвали Сибирь – это не земля, это вселенная. Два места на планете осталось – Сибирь и Амазония. И больше нет таких огромных пространств. Так почему бы нам вот эти пока еще пустые с точки зрения освоения места не превратить в какие-нибудь не просто smart mile или intelligent mile, а в smart universe или smart galaxies и так далее. И это был бы совершенно прекрасный вызов, потому что эти пустые места надо осваивать, пока кроме ресурсодобывающих структур, там «Газпром» и так далее, все наше, с чего живет вся страна, там мало что есть. Но это колоссальный вызов как для России, так и для всего человечества. И опять же можно вспомнить слова нашего знаменитого соотечественника Ломоносова, который, как все знают, говорил вполне убедительно о том, чем будет прирастать могущество России. Ну вот, спасибо.
It's not really a question, so I will not answer to the question. I agree with you. If this reconciliation of human and nature, the way you describe, could be done here, it would be great. In a way, it has already started. I think it can be done in a more advanced way, or it can be pursued if we manage really to include, but I think we have already started also that this urban brick, which is made of everything, which is not knowledge, visual, blah, blah, etc., many different elements, and organize the discussion seriously with this space of Siberia, which in some way could be described as a space that is offered for imagination and to think about the future. Only it's not a desert, it's not an ocean, it's not a forest, it's a multi-layer, very large region. But for example, last September, we hosted Japanese colleagues from Tokyo, and the discussion was, should we cooperate, or should TSU cooperate with the Tokyo Metropolitan University? Okay, we can cooperate on climate, that research, blah, blah. But what about urban development? And they could not understand how we could find common grounds between Tokyo and Tomsk, one of the largest agglomerations in the world, and a city that is really at the limit, as we have seen in our maps, between these urban spheres and non-urbanized areas. But precisely, it is because we have Tomsk that we can think about the future of Tokyo. But on the other hand, we need places like these large agglomerations where there is resource, strength, and power, that only if it helps build solid places like Tomsk or like this Eberwald University and others. So far, the complementarity has not been established as a strategy. It is more there will be the league of the most advanced big cities, and there will be the others. This is a catastrophe, because in fact, in those big cities, be it Moscow, Paris, London, Tokyo, wherever, they are producing their own problems at a very rapid path. They are producing problems in the environment, they are producing inequality problems, they are producing a lot of problems. They need to solve their daily business, building new roads, infrastructures, new housing, etc. It's not places where you can freely think about the future, right? So in a way, I completely agree with you. Thank you for making that comment.
Здравствуйте.
Добрый день. Лариса Колесниченко, магистратура изучения Сибири и Арктики. Мы с ребятами разработали проект, он называется «Город зеленого цвета». И посвящен как раз урбоэкологии и этим вопросам, которые сейчас обсуждались. В настоящее время он подан в Российское географическое общество, ждет решения от попечительского совета. Вопрос такой: возможно ли взаимодействие с вами? Мы были бы очень рады этому.
Certainly, but could you specify a little bit more? Because I think with the translation, or we can discuss it afterwards, but could you specify a bit more in which area there could be this collaboration?
Да, конечно. Подойдем пока. Спасибо.
Давайте попробую второй раз. Здравствуйте, меня зовут Григорий, я студент кафедры социальных коммуникаций. На данный момент я пишу магистерскую диссертацию. Ее тема «Умные города. Технологический и этический аспект». На данный момент я столкнулся с такой проблемой, что очень мало статей, которые касаются именно этического аспекта при формировании концепции Smart City. Недавно, 2 недели назад, я разговаривал с экспертом на фестивале документального кино о том, действительно актуальна ли тема этики при построении концепции умных городов. Он сказал нет. И действительно, существует такая проблема. Мистер Бюшу, скажите, пожалуйста, как вы считаете, действительно, тема этики, актуальная в течение 2000 лет, действительно потеряла свои позиции на данный момент или нет?
In my opinion, they are absolutely critical and they are absolutely important. I see a little bit of a problem here, or let's be more specific. For example, if we are talking about smart city as described by these typical graphs of smart cities with different smart fields and domains, let's take the example of a neighborhood with smart buildings, advanced buildings, okay, where you can plug in electric cars and there are sensors, etc. It does exist now in many cities in the world. So this smart environment. What would be the ethics about it, like transparency, like respect of privacy, as through the Internet, for example, or through the use of social networks? This would be part of the ethics. Then there are other kind of questions which directly or indirectly relate to the issue of ethics. It's, for example, the issue of insurance, because if you pay for something and build something, you will need to make sure it is insured. But what do you insure really? To insure something, you need to make evaluations, how it will evolve in the future, what are the risks, okay? So when it comes to risk assessment and risk evaluation, what kind of risk do you evaluate? The technological risk, the human risk, the human factor as a potential or as a risk? It gives another light to the issue of the ethics. And if you take the example, for example, of autonomous driving and autonomous car, there is the ethics of how the computer are calculating the risks of accident and how they evaluate to protect the driver or the people in the car or the people in another car or a pedestrian in the street, and how should we agree upon the balance that will be determined by an electronic system. In general, everything which is connected to artificial intelligence or this kind of computerizing is also raising very complex question of ethics. But there is a deeper layer of this issue of ethics, which might not be ethics, but which might be related more with economic and social balance and the environment, for example. Take again this question of cars and autonomous cars, which is very much in fashion these days. A problem that cities face is that there is congestion and there is too much cars, right? But if you add autonomous cars in the city and even cars that run all the time because they are electric, and it avoids to create new parking space, then they will be in the cities. Then we will need to build more roads. Then it will contribute to expand the cities. Then at the end of the day, we will have multiplied autonomous cars, maybe with the right ethics about accident control, risk assessment, etc. But we are producing a future environmental catastrophe and a future environmental challenge. So I would envision this issue of ethics at different levels. I mean, the control and the management of existing systems as we know them, the ethics of future systems, and the question of norms and standards and how they are defined, shared, and approved. And then also stepping back, as we have done since the beginning of this afternoon, and consider if, after all, those systems, they do not have also their limits, and if we are right to consider that we should transform all of our urban environment as a smart urban environment, because it also may have consequences we have not thought about them, because we believe we will solve everything with those layers of technology.
Большое спасибо.
Уважаемые коллеги, у вас также будет возможность в понедельник во второй половине дня с 14 до 17:00 обсудить вопросы, затронутые на лекции, а также потенциальное сотрудничество с Николя Бюшу, с Центром урбанистики и регионального развития. Такие консультации пройдут в 301-й аудитории главного корпуса. Еще раз повторяю, с 10 апреля понедельник с 14:00 до 17:00 и 11 апреля во вторник с 10:00 до 13:00. И я прошу вас, если вы заинтересованы, подойти ко мне и записаться, чтобы мы могли спланировать это время. Спасибо.
Thank you, Daria. I just want to add that at the Center for Urban Research, we have not yet a web page, but we will have a web page. We have not yet a social network, but we will have a social network. But we are real people, so please, come and visit. If you have questions right now, we have up until the next 15 minutes to freely discuss together. And really, if you have not understood where these meetings will take place or at what time, please come to me or come to Daria. Leave your contact details, leave your card, we will contact you and we will make sure that we can have an appointment and discuss together. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.
А можно, собственно говоря, вопрос по Центру урбанистики? Какой сейчас... Да, ага. Получается вопрос, чем сейчас будет вообще заниматься Центр прикладной урбанистики? Какие задачи стоят на ближайшие полгода и год? У вас получается как у главного координатора, я так полагаю, верно? Сейчас. Да. Ага.
Thank you for asking precisely. I'm here to finalize our program for the rest of the year. We are transitioning from one epoch to another epoch of the center, but we have already some items on our schedule. In fact, we have a lot. That is deepening our work on the Smart Cities Manifest that we started last year, organizing the discussion between what is urban and what is not urban. Urban is a very tiny part of the interdisciplinary programs within Trans-Siberian Scientific Way, for example. So that's it does not look spectacular, but there is a lot to do in that. We also have the development of the ongoing projects on the campus, and you know how this can take time and can be difficult, like project of the Innovation Pavilion, for example. One of the key projects is to organize together with Ludmila Barello here and other partners and with the support of the regional government, the next University Cities Conference, which will take place in the end of November, beginning of December. There was first University Cities Conference here in late November last year. There will be second one. And a lot of the issues that have been discussed here will be discussed during this University Cities Conference, not in a broad way like this, but more specifically with researchers, with businesses, with local governments. And I think for this year, it's already a good agenda because I am not counting everything else. Like Daria here is taking part to Tomsk Urban Lab, I mentioned it. It's another initiative. We're just taking part to it. We are not responsible for it, but I hope there will be some good consequences. And there is always something new happening also here in Tomsk. So it will be a great plain year.